solar state, there could be wind power, hydropower, hydrogen economy, but there cannot be a petrostate. And in a way, yes, this points in that direction. But the problem is that the transformations that we need require organization, planning, and long-term finance. And war works against all of that.
I want to switch topics quickly here because I'd love to get your thoughts on the inflation that America is facing today. How will passing parts of President Biden's Build Back Better agenda, especially the parts related to investing in the clean energy transition, impact inflation?
You know, the basic point with inflation is that we have a holy mess that's come together to put us back into what's called stagflation. Higher prices, rising prices at a rapid pace, combined with an economy which is strong at the moment, but is absolutely going to slow down, maybe even have a hard landing. And worldwide, we'll have more inflation and even another downturn. Europe probably is already in a downturn because of the war hitting Europe even harder. Well, I came into economics actually 42 years ago when I joined the faculty at Harvard University. My first book was called The Economics of Worldwide Stagflation. It was studying this kind of phenomenon. The 1970s was a period of war. The Yom Kippur War in Israel against its Arab neighbors, for example, the Arab oil embargo, which is not so different from what's happening now, a breakdown of monetary arrangements, which were then called the Bretton Woods system, because it was under the IMF that the US dollar played a particular role in international monetary affairs. So there was this incredible confluence of monetary, fiscal, geopolitical, and resource shocks that came together and produced a stagflation, which was worth writing a book about. So here we are again. We are in a stagflationary mode. Interestingly, the Federal Reserve really had pumped up the money supply for many, many years. And especially after COVID hit. In fact, in two phases, one after the 2008 great crunch, the financial crisis, and then again in 2020, even more remarkably in certain ways, the Fed pumped in money and nothing really happened on inflation except Bitcoin prices went up or stock market prices went up or some asset value prices went up. But prices in the street didn't seem to go up very much. And so there was the modern monetary theory. Oh, we could just print money to our heart's content. And as a monetary economist, I was scratching my head, frankly, saying, how could the money supply go up so much and not have inflation? Well, there is some mystery to that. There remains in disentangling all of this. But I would say the following. We've had a huge increase of the money supply by the Fed. We've had two huge supply shocks, COVID and the war. And the result now is that we are in an inflationary period that is painful and that is familiar in certain ways, more familiar perhaps than how macro looked 2 or 3 years ago. And what does all of this mean? It means, first of all, the world economy is unstable. That goes along with the war also. That goes along with the sanctions regime. That goes along with geopolitical tension. I don't like any of it because it makes everything much harder and it really hits poor countries very, very hard. So we're going to have a lot of debt crises coming up if we don't decisively take measures to head those off. Second, the inflation's likely to continue for a while because the underlying factors are not going to go away. Third, we need to sort out the basics. For me, the first basic is end this war. Second basic is end the taunting and the provocations of China, and some specific measures like the Trump tariffs that were put on Chinese goods that raised prices, by the way, but also created a trade war. Third, I've said now, I can't tell you how many decades, if we want to fund things to make our society decent, we have to raise taxes. You can't do it by printing money, and you can't do it just by debt. So this is a third point that becomes quite important. All really important good things, like decarbonizing the energy system, are affordable by definition. We can't afford not to do them. We will completely wreck the planet. In fact, decarbonizing the energy system requires perhaps a percentage point, even arguably a little bit more than that, per year of GDP in incremental outlays. Maybe, okay, it could be even more than that on some accounts. That's absolutely affordable. But we should have a tax system that is compatible with our spending needs. There's a lot of saving, by the way, that we should be doing in this country. I testified in Congress recently on the fact that our healthcare costs are roughly twice what they should be. We spend 2 times more than our peer countries on hospitalization days, on procedures, on medicines and so forth, because we have a quite monopolized, privately owned healthcare system in this country, which has a lot of market power to jack up prices. All of this is to say the Build Back Better agenda is right, because those are about long-term structural changes. I argued, good, it's right, raise taxes to pay for them. That's the right way to do this. Whether we see another major piece of legislation in this country for years to come, I think is quite doubtful right now. I doubt that the Democrats will pass anything before November. Looks like the Democrats will lose one or both houses of Congress. If the Supreme Court goes the way that it seems to be going, we're going to have just a mass of social conflict in this country. Also, we could be many years without a serious piece of legislation in this country, which is completely dreadful. And that's why being engaged in a war with all the things we need to do is just the cruelest, misguided misunderstanding about the role of politics imaginable. And I just am so disappointed in Biden and so disappointed in his mindset that he didn't understand that we need to rebuild the United States, cooperate with other countries, and use diplomacy to head off war, not just Stinger and Javelin weaponry to head off war. And I find it extremely disappointing that we are where we are, and very dangerous.